You ever notice how when someone's really into you, they just seem to get you? It's not always loud or obvious. It's subtle, but it's there. One of the clearest signs that a man is absolutely crazy about you is this almost magical thing he does. He starts mirroring your pace, both emotionally and physically. He tunes in, he adjusts, not because he's trying to manipulate anything, but because when he's that into you, your rhythm becomes his favorite beat. And here's the thing, most people don't realize this is happening in the moment. It's instinctive, subconscious. When a man really likes you, he'll notice the way you talk, how fast or slow, how passionate or calm, and you'll start to see that his tone subtly shifts to meet yours. If you're the type who's energetic and expressive, he'll try to match that energy. If you're more grounded and soft-spoken, you'll notice him calming down around you. Why? Because connection is like dancing. No one enjoys a partner who's out of sync. But it's not just about tone. It's how he responds to your emotions too. You open up about something vulnerable, and instead of brushing past it or deflecting with humor, he leans in. Maybe he shares something in return. Maybe he just listens. Really listens, not with the aim of fixing it, but with the quiet intent to feel it with you. That's emotional pacing. And when a guy mirrors you like that, he's saying without words, I want to meet you where you are. He might not even realize he's doing it, but suddenly he's asking you questions that reflect what you care about. He's staying on topics that light you up. He's slowing down when you need space and moving forward when you give him the green light. That's not just chemistry, it's attunement. And when someone is attuned to you, it's one of the deepest forms of attraction because it means they're not just seeing the surface. You've made them curious about you at every level. There's a lot of talk out there about compatibility, about whether people have the same values, the same interests, the same goals. And yes, those things are important, but there's something even more telling. In the beginning, it's this rhythm, this unspoken harmony, when someone shows that they're willing to meet you where you are, even if it's outside their usual comfort zone. That's when you know they're not just interested, they're invested. Now, some people get this wrong. They think mirroring someone means pretending to be someone you're not. That's not it. That's performance. And performance doesn't last. Real connection comes when someone adjusts because they care, not because they're trying to impress. In the little moments, the pause before they speak, the way they notice your mood before you even say anything, that's when you know you've made an impact. You'll feel it when he leans closer when you speak, not because he didn't hear you, because he wants to be closer to what you're saying. You'll feel it when he slows his walking pace to match yours, even if he naturally walks faster. It's not about control, it's about presence. And presence, when someone is really into you, becomes effortless. He just wants to be there in your space, in your energy, in your experience. And maybe, for the first time in a while, you'll notice that someone's not trying to rush you, not trying to push you ahead emotionally, not asking for more than what you're offering in that moment. That kind of patience, that's rare because it shows he's not trying to win a game. He's trying to understand the person in front of him. He's trying to earn the real you. Not just the version of you that shows up at dinner when you're on your best behavior. Let me say something important here. This isn't about being passive. When a guy mirrors your pace, he's still showing up. He's still reaching out, initiating, making an effort. But he's doing it while staying attuned to how you respond. He doesn't rush intimacy just because he feels ready. He respects where you are. That's maturity, that's emotional intelligence, and that's a guy who's not just into you, he values you. You can tell the difference when you've experienced the opposite. The guy who overwhelms you with texts, pushes for exclusivity on date 2, makes you feel like you're already in a relationship before you've even figured out if you like him back. Well, that's not romance. That's pressure. And pressure is not the same as passion. But when a man mirrors your pace, you feel safe. Not just safe to be close, but safe to be you. safe to take your time, safe to let things grow at a speed that feels real and grounded. And here's the most beautiful part. It becomes reciprocal. You start matching his energy too, not because you're forcing it, but because it feels natural. You fall into a rhythm that just works. And that's when love becomes effortless. Not because relationships don't require work, but because the foundation is built on something real, emotional synchronicity. So if you're ever wondering whether a man is truly crazy about you, don't just look at how often he calls or whether he buys you flowers. Pay attention to how he shows up in the quiet moments. When you slow down, does he slow down with you? When you get excited, does he let himself get swept up in it too? When you're vulnerable, does he stay present even if it's uncomfortable? Because if he does, he's not just interested in dating you, he's trying to understand you. And that's not a move, it's a connection. That's how you know he's serious. When a man is really into you, something interesting starts to happen that most people don't even notice at first. It's subtle but powerful. He begins to shift the way he talks, from being all about him to being about you and him. It's no longer just, I like that place, or I'm thinking of going to this event. Suddenly it becomes, we should go there, or we'd have fun doing that. That one little word, we, is like a signal flare going off. It's not an accident. It's a reflection of something very real going on in his mind. You see, men, especially the ones who are emotionally invested, start to reframe their experiences through the lens of who they want by their side. It's a psychological shift from independence to inclusion. When he says we, he's not just making conversation, he's building a world where you exist together. That's a huge indicator of how he sees you, because it means he's not just thinking about how you fit into his now, he's testing out how you might fit into his later. It's not about commitment just yet, but it is about curiosity. Curiosity about what life could look like with you in it. And here's what's even more fascinating. He doesn't even have to be fully aware he's doing it. It can happen naturally. He might start planning future events that haven't even happened yet, involving you in them, sometimes without even realizing it. That weekend trip, 6 weeks from now, we should go. That new restaurant that just opened, we've got to try it. Even when he's talking to his friends, your name starts to pop up as part of his stories. We were watching this show the other night. We found this amazing coffee spot. Again, small on the surface, but huge when you understand the psychology behind it. Because when a man is genuinely crazy about you, he wants to feel close, not just physically, but emotionally. He wants to feel like you're part of his life in a meaningful way. And the language he uses starts to reflect that emotional bond. His vocabulary subtly changes. Me becomes we. Mine becomes ours. And it's not manipulation. It's not a line. It's instinctive. He's aligning his identity with yours because emotionally, he's already attached. Now, this is where a lot of people miss the point. They assume that a man who talks like this is just being charming. But charm is fleeting. Charm can be turned on and off. Inclusion, on the other hand, real inclusion, is something deeper. It takes a certain level of vulnerability to start blending someone into your language and your life. And a man who's serious about you doesn't just want you to like him. He wants you to feel like you belong with him. He wants to create a shared experience. And that starts with how he frames his words. Think about it. We don't say we with people we're unsure about. We don't invite someone into our weekend plans or our travel bucket list or our comfort zones unless we're emotionally invested. That we is a doorway. He's leaving it open, hoping you'll step through it with him. And you can tell how deep that feeling goes by how often he returns to that frame. The more we statements he makes, the more he's trying to tether his world to yours. And it's not just about future talk either. Even in the present moment, he starts looking for little opportunities to create shared moments. If he finds a song he likes, he sends it to you. If he's making dinner, he wonders what you would enjoy. He doesn't just want to enjoy life, he wants to enjoy it with you. And here's where it gets really meaningful. When he's thinking of you in these ways, it means he's thinking of you even when you're not around. That's the mark of emotional priority. You've become part of his internal dialogue, his emotional landscape. What's powerful about this shift is that it doesn't require any grand gesture. It's not about buying gifts or planning extravagant dates. It's in the subtle, daily weaving of you into his routine, his thoughts, his plans. That's what real connection looks like. That's what happens when someone isn't just interested in dating you, but in integrating you. Now, I want to make this clear. If a man isn't doing this, it doesn't necessarily mean he's not interested. But when a man is doing it, you can be sure of one thing. He's not casually passing time. He's envisioning a version of the future. And in that version, you're standing next to him. And you'll know it because he starts thinking like a partner. Not just someone who's dating, but someone who's invested. When life throws a curveball, he's not thinking, how do I deal with this? He's thinking, how do we get through this? When opportunities arise, it's not, should I go for this job? It's, would this move make sense for us? That's how you know you've moved into a different category entirely. You're no longer just someone he enjoys spending time with. You're someone he's considering in the decisions that matter. And I get it. It might not always be obvious. Sometimes men aren't the best at expressing their feelings with clarity. But if you really want to know where you stand, listen closely, not to the big romantic speeches, but to the everyday words. The way he says we when talking about something simple. The way he includes you in decisions, even small ones. The way he seems to light up when making plans that involve you. That's not by accident. That's affection in action. That's someone emotionally opening the door and saying, come on in. I see you here. Is because at the end of the day, the most meaningful relationships aren't built on grand declarations. They're built on the quiet ways two people start saying we long before they ever say, I love you. When a guy is really into you, he doesn't always come out and say it directly. A lot of men don't operate that way, especially at the beginning. They might not have the perfect words, or they might still be figuring out exactly how to express what they feel. But if you pay attention, you'll see it in how they move around you, literally. One of the biggest clues that a man is crazy about you is this. He starts putting himself in your path. Now, I don't mean in a creepy or obvious way. I'm talking about subtle, intentional behavior that shows he's finding reasons to be near you because being close to you has become his priority. Think about it. When we really want something, we naturally start moving toward it. We gravitate toward it. It's not even always conscious. Attraction pulls us, and our brain starts finding reasons that make our actions feel justifiable. So you'll rationalize being where you are in ways that sound casual or coincidental, but they're not. And they're deliberate. Maybe he suddenly starts showing up at your favorite yoga class or that same little cafe you always go to on your lunch break. Perhaps he signs up for that work event you mentioned in passing, even though networking isn't really his thing. Maybe he's suddenly taking interest in a hobby you love, not because he's trying to become someone he's not, but because he wants an excuse to be where you are. He wants access to you without pressuring you. That's the psychology of desire. It often masks itself as coincidence, but it's actually strategy. Now here's the key. When a man is crazy about you, he wants to increase the surface area of interaction. The more often he can accidentally bump into you, the more chances he has to create meaningful moments, opportunities to make you laugh, connect over something, or just remind you that he's in your orbit. It's about repetition, because repetition breeds familiarity, and familiarity builds comfort and trust. This isn't manipulation, it's emotional investment. Men who don't care won't go out of their way. But a man who's serious, he's crafting moments, even in the most casual ways. You might think he just happened to be in the area when he texted, "Hey, I'm nearby, want to grab a drink?" But if you look closely, it's probably the third time that week he's been nearby. That's not random. That's him orbiting you with intention. It might look like nothing at first, a comment on a story, a reply to your post, a "Hey, how's your day?" in the middle of the week. These aren't huge gestures, but they're soft taps on the door. He's looking for ways in, ways to be present without overwhelming. Because when he's crazy about you, he knows it's not just about showing up once with flowers and hoping for the best. It's about creating consistency, frequency, emotional rhythm, and sometimes he'll use other people to get closer. He might get friendly with your friends, not in a weird or manipulative way, but because it gives him more legitimate reasons to be around. It reduces the friction. He knows if he's in your social circle, you'll let your guard down more. You'll talk more. He becomes part of your world, not by force, but by gentle immersion. That's why it's so important not to overlook these small moments. It's easy to wait for the big gesture, the dramatic confession of love, the grand romantic date. And sure, those things are great, but before any of that, there's groundwork, there's proximity. If he keeps appearing, if he keeps putting himself in your world, it's not by mistake. It's because every time he's around you, it confirms something for him, that the way he feels about you is real. And what makes this behavior different when he's crazy about you versus when he's just playing games is how he shows up. When a guy is playing, he shows up to get something, attention, validation, maybe even control. But when a guy genuinely wants you, he shows up to give something. He wants to contribute. He wants to support. He wants to understand what lights you up, what makes you laugh, what bothers you after a long day. That's the deeper layer. He's not just positioning himself physically near you. He's trying to get emotionally closer too. This kind of man will notice your schedule, your habits, and not in a weird, obsessive way, but with genuine interest. He'll time his messages or calls to when you're more likely to be free. He'll remember that Tuesday night is when you always have that late meeting, so he won't pressure you to hang out then, but he'll check in afterward just to ask how it went. That's someone who's not just around, but tuned in. It's funny because when a man's crazy about you, he becomes a little bit of a detective, finding clues about when and how to connect. Not because he's trying to manipulate, but because your attention matters to him. Your time matters. He knows that being around you, even in small ways, builds a bigger picture. That every coincidence is a brick in the foundation of something deeper. And here's where it gets powerful. Once you recognize this pattern, you can start to differentiate between effort and accident. You can tell when someone is just around because it's convenient versus when someone is consistently, subtly showing up because you are the reason. And when you see that, when you really understand that this man has started designing his movements around yours, not to control you, but because he genuinely enjoys the spaces you create, it tells you everything you need to know about how he feels. Because when a man is crazy about you, he doesn't always say it with big declarations. He says it by being there, repeatedly, thoughtfully, willingly, even when it costs him his time, his comfort, or his pride. He shows up, not because he has to, but because not being around you feels like missing out on something important, something he doesn't want to miss. That's not a coincidence. That's commitment in disguise. Do you ever notice when a guy really likes you, he starts doing things that seem small on the surface, but underneath, they're loaded with intention? Let's talk about one of the most subtle yet revealing signs. A man is genuinely crazy about you. He tries to impress you without making it obvious. Now, this is where things get really interesting. Lead with it, because guys, especially the emotionally intelligent ones, won't always go the grand dramatic route. You're not going to see him shouting his love from rooftops or serenading you in the rain, unless he's watched too many rom-coms. But what you will see are these little calculated efforts, these low-key performances that are all about capturing your attention without making it feel like a performance. And that's the trick. He wants you to notice him, but not think he's trying too hard. So let's break this down. Say you're out at dinner with friends, and he's there too. He cracks a joke, not just any joke, but one he's clearly thought through. It's sharp, it's clever, and just a little bit personal. He times it right, throws a quick glance your way to catch your reaction. If you laugh, even slightly, that's it. His brain lights up, validation achieved. But he won't make it obvious that he was aiming for your laugh. He'll just smirk, maybe shift his attention to something else, as if it was all off the cuff. But it wasn't. Not to him. It was a calculated move. He wants to see if he can make you smile, not the whole room. And it doesn't stop with humor. If he's crazy about you, he starts sharing things he's proud of. But again, subtly, he might drop a line about a work success or mention in passing how he helped his friend through a rough time or how he handled a conflict maturely. These aren't just casual updates. They're signals. He's trying to show you, hey, I've got value. I've got character. I want you to see that I can be a guy you admire. But instead of outright bragging, he disguises it as casual conversation. Because if he says it too directly, it risks coming off arrogant. And deep down, he doesn't want to be arrogant in your eyes. He wants to be impressive. Now, here's where it gets deeper. When a guy really cares, he wants to earn your admiration before your affection. Think about that. He doesn't just want you to like him. He wants you to respect him. He wants you to think, wow, this guy has something to him. That's why he's willing to go the extra mile, to hold doors, to ask you questions no one else does, to remember tiny details you didn't even think you mentioned, because he wants to stand out, not by being flashy, but by being intentional. There's a beautiful kind of restraint in this behavior. He's holding back from saying, look at me, look how great I am. Instead, he's hoping you'll notice on your own. He's putting his best self forward in a way that feels natural, hoping you'll pick up on it. It's like he's laying out the breadcrumbs for you to follow. Not too many, not too obvious, but just enough that if you're paying attention, you'll see his heart is in it. And here's another thing he'll do. He'll try to become someone you can rely on. Again, not in a dramatic, I'll drop everything for you way, but in small, consistent acts. Maybe he offers to help when he knows you're stressed. Maybe he remembers that Monday's a tough day for you and sends you a text just to say you've got this. He wants to be a source of strength, a quiet presence that makes your life feel a little easier, a little safer. That's not just attraction, that's investment, and it's real. But what makes all of this so compelling is that he doesn't ask for anything in return. Not right away. He's not saying, did you see what I did? Or did you notice how thoughtful I was? He's doing it because it matters to him that you feel something when he's around. He wants to earn your affection in the most respectful way possible by showing you the best version of himself, hoping you'll naturally want more of it. Now, of course, this can be confusing because if he's doing it well, you won't always be sure if he's trying or just naturally that way. And that's exactly how he wants it. He's not playing games. He's just trying to impress you without putting pressure on you, without making you feel like you owe him anything. And that's a really important distinction because manipulation is about obligation. Real affection is about inspiration. He's trying to inspire you to see him the way he sees you, as someone special, worth the effort, worth showing up for. So if you ever find yourself wondering, is he into me? Look at how he shows up. Look at the little ways he tries to get your attention without demanding it. Look at whether he brings his best self into the room when you're in it. And most of all, look up whether he's trying to earn your admiration quietly, not through pressure, but through presence. That's not just someone who likes you, that's someone who's crazy about you. And the best part? He doesn't need you to know he's trying. He just needs to feel that it's working. You want to know one of the clearest signs that a man is genuinely crazy about you. It's not always in the big gestures. It's not in the flowers he brings or the compliments he throws your way. Those things can be nice, sure, but what really gives him away, what separates a guy who's just interested from a guy who's emotionally invested, is in the tiniest, almost imperceptible details he remembers about you. When a man is truly into you, he becomes hyper aware of the things you say. Even when you don't realize you're saying anything important, you might be casually talking about how you like your coffee in the morning, extra hot, 1 sugar, a dash of oat milk, and he tucks that away. You could be reminiscing about a childhood memory, a book you love, or a throwaway comment about a place you've always wanted to visit. And then weeks later, out of nowhere, he brings it up. Not in a flashy way, not to earn brownie points, but just because it's there in his mind, because you're in his heart. Now, that's not an accident. That's how attraction works when it runs deep. We start to prioritize what matters to the person we care about. We tune in, we absorb, we store it all, because subconsciously, we're building a roadmap to connect better with them. You see, when a guy is crazy about you, your voice becomes the most important one in the room. He's not just hearing you, he's listening to you. There's a difference. Hearing is passive. Listening is active. Listening means that he's not waiting for his turn to speak. He's fully immersed in what you're saying. It's the emotional equivalent of leaning in. He remembers the show you're binge watching because he wants to talk about it with you later. He knows you've got a big presentation at work because he wants to check in afterward to see how it went. He even notices that you tend to twist your ring when you're nervous, or that your mood changes slightly when someone interrupts you mid-thought. These aren't details a casual observer would ever pick up, but he does, because he's tuned into the things most people overlook. This kind of attention isn't about being overly analytical or obsessive. It's about emotional investment. When someone values you deeply, they don't just want to impress you, they want to understand you. And understanding only happens when we slow down enough to notice the little things, the things you didn't even realize you were communicating. Now let's be real. Some men can fake the big stuff. They can buy flowers, they can say all the right lines, they can plan dates that feel picture perfect. But it's a lot harder to fake genuine, consistent attentiveness over time. You can't fake remembering someone's favorite dessert 3 weeks after they mentioned it in passing. You can't fake the softness in your voice when you recall a painful memory. And you certainly can't fake the way someone reacts when they see that softness and respond with care, not just curiosity. Let me give you an example. Say you once told him that when you were little, your dad used to take you for ice cream after school, and it's one of your happiest memories. You didn't mention it for any particular reason, just a little story that came out during a conversation. And then a month later, he suggests grabbing ice cream, not for any big celebration, but just because he remembers, and in that moment, he's not just offering a treat, he's recreating a feeling. That's connection, that's depth. That's someone saying, I don't just hear your stories, I value them. I value you. That's why this point matters so much. Because in relationships, consistency beats intensity. It's not about a grand romantic gesture once in a while. It's about small, thoughtful, emotional deposits made every day, things that show you he's paying attention, even when there's no need to. That's the kind of presence that builds trust. That makes you feel seen. That makes you feel safe. And when a man makes you feel safe enough to be fully yourself, flawed, weird, complex, that's when you know he's not just interested in you as a concept. He's invested in you as a person. He's emotionally committed to understanding your world, and he's trying to find ways to be part of it without you having to ask. Sometimes women will say to me, but he doesn't say much. He's not very expressive with words. That's okay. Not all men are naturally articulate when it comes to their emotions, but here's what you look for. Does he notice? Does he make adjustments based on what he learns about you? Because even if he isn't the most eloquent guy in the room, the man who's crazy about you will still find a way to show you through actions, through attentiveness, through effort. You'll feel it when he texts you about something you mentioned in passing. You'll feel it when he checks in on your mum because you told him she wasn't feeling well last week. You'll feel it when you're halfway through a tough day and he just knows to send a little reminder that he's in your corner. These aren't random acts. These are signals of emotional resonance, and they matter more than 1,000 rehearsed lines or fleeting butterfly. Because anyone can impress you for a night, but it takes someone who's paying real attention to make you feel cherished consistently over time. So when you're wondering whether a guy is really crazy about you, don't just watch what he says when the lights are bright and the pressure's on. Watch what he remembers. Watch what he brings up. Watch what he holds on to. Because the man who truly values you isn't looking for the spotlight, he's paying attention in the quiet. And sometimes the quiet things speak the loudest. Let me tell you something important about men when they're really into you. Something they rarely ever say out loud. It's not obvious at first, and they'll go to great lengths to pretend it's not happening. But if you look closely, you'll spot it. It's jealousy. Not the toxic kind, not the controlling, insecure kind, but the quiet, careful kind. The kind that seeps through the cracks when a man genuinely cares about you and feels something real is at stake. Now, he may never admit it. In fact, he'll probably work overtime to look cool and unbothered. But inside, there's a shift. Because when a man is crazy about you, the idea of someone else capturing your attention, even for a second, lights a little fire in him. And here's what's really fascinating. It's not about ownership. It's not about dominance. And it's not even about ego in the way most people think. It's about value. When he sees you as truly valuable, when you've become important to him emotionally, he suddenly becomes hyper aware of how quickly that could be threatened. You'll notice it in subtle ways. Let's say you mention another guy in conversation. Maybe it's just a friend. Maybe it's a coworker who helped you with something. Or maybe it's someone who complimented you. Watch what happens next. He may nod. He may smile. He may even ask questions. But underneath, something in his tone shifts. He becomes a little more alert. He might get a bit quieter for a moment. Or, ironically, start trying harder to be funny or interesting. This isn't an accident, that slight change in demeanor. That's his brain recalibrating. He's sensing competition. He's realizing someone else might see the same thing in you that he does, and that both excites and unsettles him. This kind of jealousy doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up in the way he asks, "So, who's that guy?" With what he thinks is a casual shrug, but you can tell he's fishing. It's the glance he gives when another guy walks past and makes you laugh. It's the way he touches your back a little more deliberately when you're in a group, as if to say, "She's with me." It's not about control. It's about claiming emotional space. It's him navigating that thin line between wanting to seem confident and wanting to make sure you know he notices and that he cares. And let's talk about what this means on a deeper level. See, when a man feels nothing, there's no jealousy. There's no tension. If another guy comes up, he's indifferent. He doesn't need to posture. He's not worried because, frankly, he's not invested. But when he's all in, even if he hasn't said the words yet, even if he hasn't defined the relationship, This little flicker of jealousy is often one of the first signs his heart has already decided before his mouth ever does. But here's where it gets really interesting. If a man is emotionally mature, he won't let that jealousy control him. He won't use it to guilt you, manipulate you, or make you feel like you did something wrong for simply living your life. Instead, he'll channel it. He'll use it as fuel to show up better, to be more present, to take initiative, to make it clear that he sees your value and doesn't want to risk losing it. So what you'll notice is this, a quiet shift in behavior. After that moment of jealousy, maybe after hearing about another guy or seeing one talk to you, he starts dialing things up. He texts more consistently. He plans the next date faster. He opens up more. It's like a silent wake-up call that says, wait, this woman is really someone I want to keep close. And suddenly he stops dragging his feet. But of course, not every man handles it this way. Some let jealousy turn into fear. Some become passive-aggressive or withdraw, pretending it doesn't bother them while secretly resenting you. That's not love. That's insecurity in disguise. A man who truly values you and is emotionally grounded won't need to compete or make you feel small just to soothe his ego. Instead, he'll step up, not to control you, but to remind you with action that he wants to be someone you choose. And if you're wondering, should I try to make him jealous to get a reaction? No. Never play that game. If a man is right for you, you won't need to manipulate him into caring. You won't need to create artificial tension to test his emotions, because the truth is, when a man is crazy about you, you won't need to force anything. His behavior will show it. His subtle jealousy will come not because you're trying to provoke it, but because he's emotionally invested. So pay attention to those moments. Not the dramatic ones, the small ones, the glance, the pause, the slightly firmer grip of his hand, the way his energy shifts when someone else enters the picture. Because sometimes what a man won't say tells you more than what he does.